The Empire ruled over 47 star systems and controlled the largest entertainment network in the known galaxy. Their broadcasts reached billions of viewers across hundreds of worlds. The most popular show was called The Culling Fields, and it had run for 300 years without interruption. The show was simple. They captured primitive species from backwater planets and forced them to fight in massive arenas. Sometimes the captives fought each other. Sometimes they faced predators from death worlds. Always they died. The galaxy watched and placed bets on how long each species would survive. Overlord stood in the control room of Arena Station and watched the viewing numbers climb. Tonight's broadcast would break all records. They had captured something special, something new. The technicians around him worked quickly, adjusting cameras and checking audio feeds. Everything had to be perfect. "Show me the new acquisitions," said. The main screen changed to show a holding cell. Inside, 47 creatures huddled together. They were bipedal with pale skin and strange coverings on their bodies. Some were large, some small. A few appeared to be juveniles. They called themselves humans, and they came from a planet called Earth. Clicked his mandibles in pleasure. "They look so weak. This will be good entertainment." The humans had been easy to capture. Their colony ship, the Meridian, had been traveling through unclaimed space when hunters spotted it. The ship had basic shields and no weapons. It surrendered after one warning shot. The humans inside were colonists, families seeking a new world to settle. Now they would die for the amusement of billions. Inside the holding cell, Daniel sat with his back against the cold metal wall. He had been a military officer before becoming a civilian ship captain. He knew what these aliens wanted. He had seen the bodies of the first humans they had killed. They had staged a small demonstration fight earlier, forcing 2 colonists into an arena with bladed weapons. Both men had died while alien crowds cheered. Daniel's wife sat beside him, holding their 2 children close. Their daughter was 8, their son was 6. Both children tried to be brave, but fear showed in their eyes. Around them, the other survivors whispered prayers and held each other. "We need to fight back," said a man named Carl. He was young, maybe 25, with burned scars on his hands from working in the ship's engine room. "With what?" another colonist asked. "They took everything, we have nothing." Daniel looked at the door. 2 guards stood outside, visible through the transparent barrier. They carried energy weapons and war armor. The humans had bare hands and clothes, but Daniel had not survived military service by giving up when things looked bad. "We stay together," Daniel said quietly. "We protect the children. We watch for any chance to escape. We survive as long as we can." "Why?" Carl asked. "So they can kill us slowly instead of quickly." "Because Earth will come," said. She spoke with certainty that Daniel wished he felt. "Someone is watching. Someone knows what happened to us. Earth will send help." The door opened. 6 guards entered the cell, weapons raised. His voice boomed from speakers in the ceiling. "Humans, you have been chosen for a great honor. Tonight, you will entertain the galaxy. You will show billions of viewers what your species is capable of. You will fight, and you will die, and you will be remembered." The guards began separating the humans into groups. Daniel fought to stay with his family, but the guards struck him down. They dragged and the children away. Daniel struggled to his feet and tried to follow, but an energy blast knocked him unconscious. On Earth, deep space monitoring stations tracked thousands of signals every day. Most were natural phenomena or known broadcasts. The night shift at Station 7 in Australia had been quiet until the computers flagged an unusual transmission. It came from deep space, far beyond the frontier colonies. Commander Gregory Shaw was drinking his 5th coffee when the alert came through. He was 42 years old, with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent 20 years in Earth Defense Command, mostly watching empty space and filing reports. Nothing ever happened, until tonight. "Sir, you need to see this," a technician said. Gregory walked to the main screen. The transmission was clear and strong. It showed an alien creature speaking in a language the computers could not translate, but the images needed no translation. The screen showed humans in cages. It showed humans being forced into an arena. It showed humans dying while alien crowds cheered. Gregory felt his blood turn cold. "Get me Earth Defense Command, now, and track that signal. I want to know where it's coming from." The transmission continued. More humans died on screen. The alien audience laughed and celebrated. Gregory recognized one of the humans. He had approved the Meridian's departure 3 months ago. He had shaken Daniel's hand and wished him luck on the colony mission. Within an hour, the transmission had been sent to every government on Earth. Within 2 hours, it had leaked to the public networks. Within 3 hours, 8 billion humans had watched their people being slaughtered for entertainment. The reaction was immediate and universal. Rage swept across Earth like a wildfire. Protests erupted in every major city. Government buildings were surrounded by crowds demanding action. The United Earth Council called an emergency session. Gregory watched it all from the command center. He had sent his report. He had included the signal location. He had recommended immediate military response. Now he waited for politicians to talk while more humans died on alien screens. The ambassador to the Galactic Council received Earth's message 6 hours after the broadcast. The message was simple. It demanded the immediate release of all human prisoners. It threatened consequences if the demand was not met. The ambassador read the message and laughed. Earth was barely aware of the greater galaxy. They had primitive ships and no real military presence beyond their own system. They were weak, isolated, and powerless. The ambassador sent a reply. It contained more footage of human deaths and a message that the executions would continue. On Arena Station, Daniel woke in a smaller cell. His head hurt from the energy blast. He sat up and looked around. 30 other humans were with him, was there holding their children. Carl was there too, along with others from the Meridian. 12 colonists were missing. Daniel did not need to ask what had happened to them. "They're going to kill us all," someone said. Daniel looked at his wife and children. He thought about Earth, so far away. He thought about the life they should have had on a new colony world. Then he pushed those thoughts aside and focused on the present. "Not without a fight," Daniel said. "Not without making them remember that they hurt the wrong species." He did not know if anyone on Earth had seen the broadcast. He did not know if help would come. But he knew that humans did not die quietly. They did not give up. They survived. And somewhere in the dark between stars, help was already coming. President Martinez stood before the United Earth Council chamber and looked at the representatives from every nation on the planet. The chamber was silent. Every person in the room had seen the broadcast. Every person knew what was at stake. "They took our people," said. Her voice was calm, but her hands were shaking. "They murdered our people for entertainment. They laughed while our children died. And when we asked for the return of our people, they sent us more death as an answer." She paused and looked around the room. "The vote is simple. Do we respond with force, or do we let this stand? Do we show the galaxy that human life means something, or do we accept that we are prey?" The vote took 5 minutes. Every nation voted yes. Every representative agreed. Earth would go to war. In the holding cell on Arena Station, Daniel had managed to organize the survivors. They had 31 people left, 12 adults, 4 teenagers, and 15 children, including his own. They had made a mistake when they put them all together. They had assumed humans were too weak and scared to resist. Daniel had found a weak point in the cell's ventilation system. The metal was old and showed signs of corrosion. He had been working on it for hours, using a piece of broken plastic from a food container to scrape away at the weakened metal. His fingers were bleeding, but he kept working. Kept the children calm by telling them stories. She spoke about Earth, about green grass and blue skis. She spoke about home and family and all the things they would see again. Some of the children believed her. Some just needed something to hold on to. Carl worked with the other adults to make weapons from anything they could find. Pieces of broken furniture became clubs. Sharp edges of metal became knives. They would not be much against energy weapons and armor, but they would be something. "Why are we doing this?" one of the teenagers asked. Her name was, and she had lost her parents in the first arena fight. "Because we're human," Daniel said without stopping his work on the ventilation panel. "We don't quit. We don't give up. We fight until there's nothing left to fight with." "But they're going to kill us anyway." "Maybe," said, "but they're going to remember that it was hard. They're going to remember that humans don't die easy." The ventilation panel finally came loose. Behind it was a narrow shaft that led deeper into the station. It was barely wide enough for a person to crawl through. Daniel did not know where it led, but it was better than waiting in the cell. On Earth, the military mobilization happened faster than any operation in human history. Every nation contributed ships and personnel. But the real power came from a secret that Earth had kept hidden for 30 years. Gregory Shaw stood in an asteroid field far beyond Mars and looked at the ships that floated in the darkness. 20 warships, each one built with technology that the rest of the galaxy had never seen. They had been constructed in secret, hidden in hollowed-out asteroids and ice moons. Earth had always known that first contact might not be friendly. They had prepared. The ships were beautiful and deadly. They had experimental engines that could cross vast distances in days instead of months. They had stealth systems that made them invisible to standard sensors. They had weapons designed by the best minds on Earth, weapons that used principles they had never encountered. Gregory had been promoted to Fleet Admiral that morning. He stood on the bridge of the lead ship, a heavy cruiser called the Defiance, and looked at his crew. They were volunteers, every one of them. Young and old, experienced and new, they had all asked to be part of this mission. "We have one objective," Gregory said. "Bring our people home. Everything else is secondary. We are not going to start a war. We are going to end one before it begins." The navigation officer was a young woman named Barnes. She had calculated the fastest route to Arena Station. It would take 3 days of travel through faster than light space. 3 days while humans died on alien screens. "All ships report ready," the communications officer said. Gregory sat in the command chair and took a deep breath. He thought about Daniel and the Meridian colonists. He thought about the children who had been killed for entertainment. He thought about every human who had ever looked up at the stars and dreamed of what was out there. "Take us out," Gregory said, "and send a message to Arena Station. Tell them we're coming." The fleet moved as one, 20 ships accelerating toward the edge of the solar system. They reached faster than light speed and vanished into the void. Behind them, Earth watched and waited. Ahead of them, Arena Station prepared for its biggest broadcast yet. Overlord reviewed the final schedule for the grand execution. All remaining humans would die together in the main arena. It would be spectacular. He had arranged for special weapons and exotic predators. The broadcast would run for 6 hours and generate more revenue than any previous show. The viewing numbers were already climbing. Word had spread across the galaxy about the humans and their stubborn resistance. Several of them had escaped their cell and killed 3 guards before being recaptured. The violence had made them famous. Now billions wanted to see their final moments. Did not care about the message Earth had sent. Their threat meant nothing. They were one primitive world against an empire that had crushed thousands of species. Earth would learn its place, and the lesson would be broadcast for the galaxy to see. In the maintenance shafts of Arena Station, Daniel led his group through narrow passages and dark corridors. They had managed to get everyone out of the cell before the guards discovered the breach. Now they were hiding in the forgotten spaces of the massive station, trying to stay alive for one more hour, one more day. The children were tired and scared. Daniel's daughter held his hand and tried not to cry. His son asked when they could go home. Daniel did not have answers. He only had determination. They found a storage room filled with old equipment. Inside were tools and spare parts for maintaining the station. Daniel immediately began looking for anything useful. The adults worked quickly while kept the children quiet. "We can make a transmitter," Carl said. He held up a collection of wires and circuit boards. "If we can get to an external antenna, we can send a signal to Earth." "They already know what happened to us," someone said. "But they don't know we're still alive," Carl replied. "They don't know we're fighting back. Maybe if they know, they'll come faster." Daniel looked at the pile of equipment. He had been an officer, not an engineer, but he understood the principle. If they could send a signal, if they could let Earth know that survivors remained, maybe it would make a difference. "Do it," Daniel said. "We'll buy you time." Took the children to the back of the storage room and kept them calm with more stories. The adults worked on building weapons and planning their next move. Carl and two others worked on the transmitter. Hours passed. The station's alarms went off multiple times as guards searched for the escaped humans. Each time, Daniel and his group stayed hidden and silent. Each time, the guards passed by without finding them. Finally, Carl held up the completed transmitter. It was crude and would only broadcast on a narrow frequency, but it might work. "We need to get to the outer hull," Carl said. "The signal won't penetrate the station's shielding from here." Daniel knew what that meant. Someone would have to go outside into space and manually attach the transmitter to the hull. It would be dangerous. The person might not make it back. "I'll go," Daniel said. "No," said immediately. "The children need you." "We all need you," Carl added. "I know the equipment. I should go." They argued for several minutes before Daniel agreed. Carl would go with two other volunteers. They would find spacesuits in the maintenance area and make their way to an airlock. They would plant the transmitter and get back before the guards found them. The three men left. The remaining humans waited in tense silence. Daniel held his wife and children and prayed that Carl would succeed. He prayed that Earth had not forgotten them. He prayed that somewhere in the darkness of space, help was coming. Far from Arena Station, the human fleet raced through faster than light space. Gregory Shaw sat in his command chair and reviewed the intelligence reports. They had detailed maps of Arena Station. They knew the guard's strength and weapon placements. They had a plan. But what they did not know was whether any humans were still alive. The broadcasts had stopped showing the colonists. Either they were all dead or they were saving them for something special. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," the communications officer said suddenly. Everyone on the bridge turned to look. The signal was weak and filled with static, but it was human. It was a voice they recognized. "This is Carl Henderson from the Meridian. We are alive, 31 survivors. We are hiding in Station Section 12. Please hurry." The message repeated 3 times and then cut off. The bridge was silent. Then every person erupted in cheers. Gregory felt relief wash over him. They were not too late. "Increase speed," Gregory ordered. "I don't care if we burn out the engines. We're bringing them home." Carl Henderson floated in the darkness of space and attached the last wire to the station's hull. His spacesuit was old and the oxygen gauge showed only 10 minutes remaining. His hands shook from cold and fear, but he worked carefully. The transmitter had to work. Earth had to know they were alive. "Done," he said into his helmet radio. "Activating now." The device hummed to life. A small green light blinked 3 times and then stayed solid. The message was broadcasting. Carl allowed himself one moment of hope before starting the long crawl back to the airlock. Inside Arena Station, the alarms suddenly blazed with renewed intensity. Guards rushed through corridors, their weapons charged and ready. They had detected the transmission. They knew the humans were in Section 12. Overlord screamed orders through the communication system. The escaped prisoners would be found and punished. Their deaths would be slow and public. Daniel heard the alarms and knew they were out of time. "Everyone up, we move now." Gathered the children while the other adults grabbed their makeshift weapons. Daniel led them out of the storage room and into the maintenance corridor. Behind them, heavy footsteps echoed. The guards were close. They ran through narrow passages and down metal stairs. The children struggled to keep pace. Daniel's son stumbled and fell. Daniel scooped him up without breaking stride, carried their daughter. Around them, the station shook as more guards converged on their position. "Dead end," someone shouted. They had reached a sealed bulkhead. Beyond it lay the main arena, where thousands of alien spectators were already gathering for the scheduled execution. Daniel tried to open the door, but it was locked from the other side. Behind them, the sound of guards grew louder. "We make our stand here," Daniel said. He set his son down and raised the metal pipe he had been carrying as a weapon. The other adults formed a line between the children and the approaching guards. The first guards appeared at the end of the corridor. There were 12 of them, all armed with energy weapons and protected by armor. They walked slowly, confident. The humans were trapped and unarmed. This would be easy. Daniel stepped forward. "You want us? Come and take us." The lead guard raised his weapon. At that exact moment, every light in the station went out. Emergency power activated after 3 seconds, but those 3 seconds of darkness changed everything. Because when the lights came back on, the sealed bulkhead behind the humans was open. Standing in the doorway was a figure in black armor, holding a weapon unlike anything they had seen before. "Get behind me," Colonel Peter Daniels said to the humans. He was tall and broad, with dark skin and calm eyes. Behind him, 20 more human soldiers in similar armor filled the arena entrance. Each one carried weapons that hummed with contained power. The guards opened fire. Energy bolts struck the human soldiers but dissipated against their armor without effect. Peter raised his weapon and fired once. The blast hit the lead guard's weapon and vaporized it without touching the guard himself. The precision was impossible. The technology was beyond anything they possessed. "Drop your weapons or the next shot goes through you," Peter said. His voice was amplified through his helmet and echoed in the corridor. The guards looked at each other. One of them made a movement toward his weapon. Peter fired again, and the guard's armor split open without harming the flesh beneath. The guard fell to his knees in shock. "I said drop them." The weapons clattered to the floor. Peter's squad moved forward and secured the guards with quick efficiency. Then they turned to the frightened humans huddled against the wall. "Daniel," Peter asked. "That's me," Daniel said. He still held the metal pipe like a weapon. "Sir, I'm Colonel Peter Daniels, Earth Marine Corps. We're here to take you home." Daniel felt his legs go weak, started crying. The children stared at the soldiers with wide eyes. It was real. Earth had come. "How many survivors?" Peter asked. 31 total. 3 are still outside. They planted the transmitter. Peter spoke into his helmet radio. "Find them. Section 12, external hull, and get medical teams to the arena." He turned back to Daniel. "Sir, we need to move fast. Can everyone walk?" "We'll crawl if we have to," Daniel said. The Marines formed a protective formation around the colonists. They moved quickly through the station, encountering no resistance. Every they passed was frozen in shock or running in the opposite direction. The appearance of human soldiers on Arena Station was impossible. The primitive species had no faster-than-light ships. They had no advanced military. Yet here they were, moving through the station like they owned it. In the station's control room, Overlord watched his monitors in disbelief. Human warships surrounded Arena Station. 20 massive vessels that had appeared from nowhere, materializing like ghosts around his facility. His sensors had never detected them. His shields had activated automatically, but the human ships had sent some kind of pulse that shut down the shields instantly. "How is this possible?" demanded His technicians had no answers. The readings made no sense. The human ships used power systems that should not exist. Their weapons operated on principles that violated known physics. It was as if Earth had secretly developed technology centuries ahead of the rest of the galaxy. "Get me the fleet," ordered. "Send a distress call. Tell them we are under attack by Earth forces." The communication officer worked frantically. "Sir, the human ships are broadcasting a message to the entire galaxy." "Show me." The main screen changed to show a human in military uniform. He sat in a command chair on a ship's bridge. His hair was gray and his face was tired, but his eyes were hard as stone. "This is Fleet Admiral Gregory Shaw of the Earth Defense Fleet," the human said. "We have come to Arena Station to retrieve our people. We do not seek war. We seek only justice. If forces stand down and release all prisoners, we will depart peacefully. If they resist, we will do what is necessary." Clicked his mandibles in rage. "They think they can threaten us. Contact General, tell him to bring the fleet. We will crush these primitives." Far from Arena Station, the war fleet received the distress call. General commanded 200 warships, the pride of the Empire. He had crushed rebellions on a dozen worlds. He had never lost a battle. When he received the message about human ships at Arena Station, he laughed. "These are the weak creatures we captured for entertainment," said. "They dare to challenge us. This will be instructive." He ordered the fleet to maximum speed. They would reach Arena Station in 1 hour. They would destroy the human ships and execute the prisoners slowly. The galaxy would learn that challenging the Empire meant death. On the Defiance, Gregory Shaw received reports from all sectors. The human prisoners had been secured and were being evacuated to the medical frigate. All 31 colonists were alive. 3 had been found on the hull, low on oxygen but safe. The children were frightened but unhurt. It was better than he had dared to hope. "Sir, we're detecting a large fleet approaching," Lieutenant Brooks said. She was the weapons officer, young and serious. 200 warships. They'll be here in 45 minutes. Gregory nodded slowly. He had expected this. They would not let a challenge stand. They would come with overwhelming force and expect an easy victory. They did not know what Earth had prepared. "Send another message to the commander," Gregory said. "Tell him we do not want bloodshed. Tell him to turn back." The message was sent. The response came quickly. It was a video message showing General. The general spoke in broken English. "Humans run now or die. You steal our property. You attack our station. We come with 200 ships. You have 20. The math is simple." Gregory watched the message and felt a cold rage settle over him. These creatures had murdered humans for entertainment. They had tortured children and laughed. They had turned death into a spectacle. And now they thought they could threaten Earth and face no consequences. "Recall all personnel to ships," Gregory ordered. "Charge all weapons. Prepare for combat." "Sir, should we retreat?" someone asked. 200 ships against 20, those aren't good odds." Gregory looked at the young officer and smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "They're about to learn that numbers don't mean much when you're fighting humans. Send a message to President Martinez. Tell her we've secured the prisoners and are engaging the enemy fleet." "What about Arena Station?" "Leave it intact for now. Let the galaxy watch what happens when you hurt our people." The crew moved with practiced efficiency. Every system was checked and ready. The weapons hummed with power. The stealth fields activated again, making the human ships nearly invisible. They waited in silence while the fleet approached. In the arena, Daniel and sat with their children in a medical bay aboard one of the human ships. A doctor named Lisa checked them over with gentle hands. She gave the children warm blankets and sweet drinks. She cleaned Daniel's bleeding fingers and bandaged scraped knees. "You're safe now," Lisa said. "You're going home." Daniel wanted to believe it, but through the medical bay's small window he could see space. He could see the massive fleet approaching. 200 warships against 20. He had been a military officer. He knew what those numbers meant. "What's going to happen?" Daniel asked. Lisa followed his gaze and saw the approaching fleet. Her expression did not change. "What's going to happen is that the galaxy is about to learn why you don't make humans angry. Your people died as entertainment. Earth is about to show them that we remember. We always remember." Fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. 200 warships filled the space around Arena Station like a swarm of metal insects. Each ship bristled with weapons. Each one had survived dozens of battles. General stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the human vessels on his screen. 20 ships, so small, so few. "Target their engines," ordered. "Disable them but do not destroy. I want their crews alive for questioning. The galaxy will watch us dissect their technology and break their will." The ships opened fire. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes filled the space between the fleets. The barrage was massive, enough firepower to vaporize a small moon. The human ships did not move. They did not dodge. They simply waited as the weapons approached. On the Defiance, Gregory Shaw watched the incoming fire on his tactical display. Around him, the bridge crew sat calm and ready. No one panicked. No one showed fear. They had trained for this moment. They had prepared for war in the darkness while Earth pretended peace. "Shields holding at 98%, Brooks reported. "Minor fluctuations on ships 4 and 7. No damage to any vessel." Stared at his displays in confusion. The human shields had absorbed the entire barrage without failing. That was impossible. His ships carried weapons designed to break through any known defensive technology. Yet the human shields had barely flickered. "Fire again," ordered. "All ships, maximum power." The second barrage was twice as large as the first. Every ship fired every weapon. The space between the fleets turned white with energy. Alarms sounded across Arena Station as radiation levels spiked. The watching galaxy held its breath. The human ships emerged from the barrage unchanged. Their shields glowed bright blue for a moment and then returned to normal. Not a single vessel showed damage. Not a single crew member was injured. Gregory stood from his command chair. "Send a final message to the commander. Tell him this is his last chance to withdraw." The message was sent. The response came in the form of more weapons fire, had no intention of retreating. He was a general of the Empire. He did not run from primitives. "Very well," Gregory said quietly. He looked at Brooks. "Return fire. Target their weapons and engines only. I want minimal casualties." "Sir, with respect, there are 200 ships out there." "I'm aware of the numbers, Lieutenant. Fire at will." The human ships responded. 20 vessels against 200. Every person in the galaxy watching the broadcast expected the humans to die. They expected a brave but futile last stand. What they witnessed instead would change the course of galactic history. The human weapons fired. They made no sound in space, but the effects were immediate and devastating. Rounds accelerated to impossible speeds, punched through armor like it was paper. Plasma torpedoes tracked and hit their targets with precision that should have been impossible. Energy beams cut through multiple ships with a single shot. Within 30 seconds, 50 ships were disabled. Their engines went dark and their weapons fell silent. They drifted helplessly in space, crews alive but unable to fight. The human fire did not slow. It did not stop. Each shot hit exactly what it was aimed at, nothing more, nothing less. Watched his fleet fall apart. His second-in-command shouted damage reports faster than he could process them. Ships that had fought for decades were cut down in seconds. The human weapons used technology they had never encountered. Their targeting systems were beyond anything in the known galaxy. "All ships retreat," finally ordered. "Fall back to the outer system." But the human ships did not let them run. Small fighter craft launched from the main vessels. They moved faster than anything they had ever seen. Commander Cross led the first wing. His fighter was sleek and deadly, powered by engines that bent the rules of physics. Behind him, 30 more fighters spread out and engaged the fleeing ships. His targeting computer locked onto 3 ships at once. He fired and watched all 3 lose power. Their engines died, but their life support remained active. That was the pattern. The humans were fighting to disable, not to kill. It made the assault even more frightening. They could destroy the entire fleet easily. They chose mercy instead. The battle lasted 15 minutes. When it ended, the fleet was scattered and broken. 170 ships drifted without power. 20 more had managed to jump to faster than light speed and escape. 10 had been destroyed when their own weapon systems exploded under human fire. Even in victory, the human forces had shown restraint. Gregory ordered his ships to hold position. Around them, dead vessels floated in the darkness. Escape pods launched from the disabled ships. The human fleet made no move to stop them. They let the crews abandon ship and drift toward Arena Station. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council," the communications officer said. "They're requesting to speak with you immediately." "Put them on screen." The display showed a chamber filled with alien dignitaries. Representatives from 100 species looked at Gregory with expressions that ranged from shock to fear. A creature that looked like a walking tree spoke first. Its voice was translated by computers into English. "Admiral Shaw, the Galactic Council demands an explanation for this unprovoked attack on forces." Gregory felt anger rise in his chest. "Unprovoked? Your people watched humans being tortured and killed for entertainment. You placed bets on how long we would survive. You laughed while our children died. And now you call our response unprovoked." The tree creature shifted uncomfortably. "The actions of the Empire do not represent the will of the entire Council." "Then where were you when we needed you? Where was the Council when we asked for help?" Gregory stepped closer to the camera. "I'll tell you where you were. You were watching the broadcast. You were entertained. You thought humans were weak and easy prey. Now you know differently." Another alien spoke, this one resembling a large insect. "Earth has violated galactic law. You have attacked a sovereign empire without provocation. There will be consequences." "Let me be clear," Gregory said. His voice was cold and hard. "Earth does not recognize any law that allows the murder of our people. We do not bow to empires that think genocide is entertainment, and we will not apologize for defending ourselves." He paused and looked directly at the camera. "This is your warning. Any species that harms humans will face the same fate as the fleet. We came to the galaxy in peace, but if you force our hand, we will show you what humans are truly capable of." He gestured and the communications officer cut the transmission. The bridge was silent for a moment. Then someone started clapping. Soon the entire crew was applauding. They had done what humans did best. They had stood up to bullies and shown strength when it mattered most. "Sir, what about Arena Station?" asked. Gregory looked at the massive structure floating nearby. Inside, thousands of alien civilians were watching. Overlord was watching. The entire galaxy was watching. "Send teams to the station. I want every prisoner freed, every single one. Every species, every cell, every individual being held for entertainment. Get them medical care and transport them home." "What about?" "Arrest him and anyone else involved in running the arena. They'll face trial for war crimes." The human Marines moved through Arena Station with purpose. They opened every cell and freed every prisoner. There were thousands of them. Some had been held for years. Some were children who had never known freedom. All of them stared at the human soldiers in wonder and fear. Peter Daniels found cowering in a luxury suite. The Overlord tried to run, but Peter simply grabbed him by his arm and held him still. "You killed humans for fun," Peter said quietly. "You made our deaths into a show. Now you're going to stand trial and the galaxy will watch you answer for what you've done." Struggled, but the human was impossibly strong. "You cannot do this. I am protected by the Empire. The Council will never allow it." The Empire is broken, the Council is scared, and Earth doesn't ask for permission anymore. Throughout the galaxy, billions of beings watched the broadcast. They saw human soldiers showing mercy to prisoners. They saw human doctors treating wounded. They saw Earth forces turning a place of death into a place of healing. On Earth, the celebration was beyond anything in history. Every city erupted in joy. The colonists were coming home. The galaxy had learned that humans were not prey. 8 billion people looked up at the stars and felt pride. In the medical bay of the Defiance, Daniel held his family close. His children were asleep, finally feeling safe, rested her head on his shoulder. Around them, other survivors from the Meridian spoke quietly with each other. They were going home. They had survived. "You were right," Daniel said to his wife. "Earth came, they didn't forget us." "We're human," replied. "We take care of our own, we always have, we always will." Outside the ship, the stars looked different now. No longer distant and cold, but familiar. Earth had claimed its place among them. The galaxy had made a spectacle of human death. Now they would live with the consequences. Earth had shown them that some species should never be pushed. Some species fight back. And when humans fight, they fight to win. 3 months after the battle at Arena Station, the Galactic Council convened for the most important session in its 1,000-year history. Representatives from every member species filled the great chamber. At the center of the room stood a hastily constructed platform. On that platform sat Overlord and 47 other who had operated the death arenas. President Martinez stood before the assembly. She wore a simple suit and carried no weapons. Beside her stood Gregory Shaw, now promoted to Supreme Commander of Earth Defense Forces. Behind them, a delegation of human diplomats and military officers waited in silence. The chamber was tense. Many species still viewed Earth as dangerous primitives who had committed an act of war. Others saw them as liberators who had stopped a horror the Council had ignored for centuries. All of them wanted to know what Earth would do next. "Members of the Galactic Council," began. Her voice was clear and strong. 3 months ago, citizens of Earth were captured and murdered for entertainment. We asked for their return. We begged for mercy. We were ignored, so we took action. A creature resembling a floating jellyfish spoke. "You destroyed a fleet. You invaded sovereign territory. You arrested citizens of the Empire without authority." "We saved lives," replied. "When your council did nothing, we did what any civilization should do. We protected our people, and in doing so, we freed thousands of other prisoners your council had also ignored." The truth of that statement hung in the air. Earth had released prisoners from 70 different species. Many of those species had representatives in this chamber. Many had sent messages of gratitude to Earth. The Council could condemn Earth's methods, but they could not deny the results. "The Empire demands compensation for the destroyed ships," another alien said. "They demand the return of their citizens who are currently held by Earth forces." Gregory stepped forward. "The Empire is welcome to request extradition after these individuals stand trial for war crimes. We have evidence of systematic murder, torture, and genocide. We have witness testimony from thousands of victims. Justice will be served. Earth does not have the authority to try citizens of other species." "Then give us that authority," said. "Make it official. Create a court with jurisdiction over crimes against sentient beings. Give it the power to investigate and prosecute those who commit atrocities. If you do that, we will gladly participate. If you don't, we will continue to act alone." The chamber erupted in argument. Some species supported Earth's proposal. Others saw it as a power grab. The debate raged for hours. Finally, a vote was called. The measure passed by a narrow margin. The Galactic Court of Justice was established with representatives from 30 species, including Earth. The trials began 1 week later. They were broadcast across the galaxy. Every species watched as and his associates were confronted with evidence of their crimes. Freed prisoners about years of torture. Medical records showed the deaths of thousands. They tried to defend themselves by claiming they were following the laws of their empire. "Your laws protected you from accountability," the human judge said. Her name was Morgan, and she had spent 30 years as a prosecutor on Earth. "But no law grants the right to murder innocents for entertainment. You are found guilty on all counts. You are sentenced to life imprisonment on a rehabilitation colony where you will work to support the victims you created." The sentences were carried out immediately. They were transported to a remote world where they would spend the rest of their lives making amends. It was not the execution many had expected. It was something harder. It was justice with mercy. On Earth, Daniel stood in his backyard and watched his children play. They laughed and ran through the grass. They had nightmares sometimes. They remembered the arena and the fear, but they were healing. Slowly, day by day, they were becoming children again. Joined him and took his hand. "The Galactic News Network wants to interview us again." "Tell them no," Daniel said. "We're not symbols, we're just people who survived." "They're calling you heroes." "We're not heroes. The people who came for us are heroes. We just refuse to die quietly." Smiled. "Maybe that's what makes humans dangerous. We don't accept our fate, we fight back." Daniel thought about that. He thought about Carl Henderson, who had risked his life to plant the transmitter. He thought about the other colonists who had fought with metal pipes against energy weapons. He thought about Earth, which had built a secret fleet just in case first contact went wrong. "Maybe you're right," he said. "Maybe that's what the galaxy needed to learn. You can't make humans into victims and expect us to accept it. We'll find a way to fight back. We always do." Across human space, new colonies were being established. The frontier was expanding rapidly. But now, human ships traveled with military escorts. Earth had established the protection fleet exactly as planned. 50 warships patrolled human space. Any colony, any ship, any human anywhere in the galaxy knew that Earth was watching. Gregory Shaw commanded the fleet from a new flagship called the Justice. He sat in his office and reviewed reports from across known space. The Empire had collapsed after the battle. Client species had rebelled and declared independence. Former slaves were building new civilizations. The power vacuum was causing chaos, but it was the chaos of freedom. "Sir, we have a request from the species," his aide said. "They're asking for Earth's protection. They say they used to raid their worlds for slaves." Gregory looked at the request. They were offering trade agreements and technology sharing in exchange for Earth's military guarantee. It was the 5th such request this week. Other species wanted to ally with Earth. They wanted the protection of the fleet that had crushed an empire. "Accept the request," Gregory said. "But make it clear we're not building an empire. We're offering partnership. They keep their freedom and independence. We just make sure no one tries to enslave them." The aide nodded and left. Gregory stood and walked to the window. Outside, stars filled the darkness. Somewhere out there, humans were working and living and building new lives. His job was to make sure they could do it safely. A year after the battle, Arena Station was completely transformed. The death arenas had been torn down. In their place stood hospitals and schools. The station had become a refugee center, housing thousands of beings who had lost their homes to the Empire. Human doctors and teachers worked alongside aliens to build something new. Lisa ran the main hospital. She treated patients from 100 different species. Some had physical injuries. Others had mental scars from years of captivity. All of them received care regardless of their ability to pay. "Doctor, we have incoming ships," a nurse said. "More refugees from the collapsed sectors." Lisa nodded. "Prepare the medical bays. Let's give them a proper welcome." The ships docked and refugees streamed into the station. They were tired and scared. Many had never seen humans before. They had only heard stories about the species that had challenged the Empire and won. A small child approached Lisa. The child was from a species she didn't recognize, with blue skin and large eyes. "Are you human?" the child asked in broken English. "Yes," Lisa said gently, "I'm human. My mother says humans are strong. She says humans protect others." Lisa knelt down to the child's level. "Your mother is right. We do protect others, and that includes you. You're safe now." The child smiled and ran back to its mother. Lisa watched them go and felt a sense of purpose. This was what Earth had fought for, not conquest or power, but the simple ability to help those who needed it. On Earth, a memorial was constructed in Geneva. It listed the names of the 16 colonists who had died on Arena Station. Their families gathered for the dedication ceremony. President Martinez spoke about sacrifice and remembrance. She spoke about how their deaths had not been in vain. Earth had changed the galaxy because of them. Daniel stood with his family and looked at the memorial. He found the names of people he had known, people who had shared meals with him on the Meridian, people who had died while the galaxy watched and laughed. "Will it happen again?" his daughter asked. She was older now, more aware of the universe beyond Earth. "Maybe," Daniel said honestly. "There are always beings who think they can hurt others without consequences, but now they know that humans remember. We don't forget. We don't forgive easily, and we will always come for our people." "Is that why the other species are scared of us?" "They're not scared of us," corrected gently. "They're cautious. They've learned that humans are not weak, but they're also learning that we're not cruel. We fight when we have to, but we prefer peace." The ceremony ended and families dispersed. Daniel and took their children home. Life continued. The nightmares became less frequent. The scars began to heal. Earth moved forward. In the Galactic Council chamber, new laws were being written. Laws against slavery and forced combat. Laws protecting refugees and establishing basic rights for all sentient beings. Earth's representatives pushed hard for these changes. Some species resisted, but most agreed. The old ways were ending. A new era was beginning. Gregory Shaw retired after 5 years of service. He had seen Earth grow from an isolated world to a major galactic power. He had watched human colonies flourish under the protection of the fleet. He had witnessed former enemies become allies. His work was done. On his last day of command, he stood on the bridge of the Justice and looked at his crew. "When I took this job, I thought we were going to war. I thought we'd be fighting constantly to prove ourselves. But that's not what happened. We showed the galaxy who we are. We showed them that humans value life. We showed them that we stand up to bullies. And most importantly, we showed them that we take care of each other." He paused and looked at the stars. The galaxy tried to make a spectacle of human death. They thought we were entertainment. They learned differently. We turned their cruelty into a warning. We turned their arena into a place of healing. We took their empire and gave freedom to thousands. That's the human way. We don't just survive. We make things better. The crew applauded. Gregory saluted them one final time and left the bridge. Behind him, a new generation of officers took command. They would carry forward the mission. They would protect humanity and its allies. They would ensure that the lesson Earth had taught would never be forgotten. 20 years after the battle at Arena Station, human children learned about it in school. They learned about Daniel and the Meridian colonists. They learned about Gregory Shaw and the Secret Fleet. They learned about how Earth had responded to cruelty with strength and mercy. The textbooks showed images of the ruined fleet. They showed pictures of freed prisoners and transformed arenas. They showed humanity's place in the galaxy, not as conquerors but as protectors. The lesson was simple. The galaxy had tested humanity and found them stronger than expected. They had tried to break the human spirit and instead had awakened it. They had made a spectacle of human death, and in response, Earth had turned the stars into a warning. Never again would any species look at humans and see prey. Never again would the galaxy assume that mercy meant weakness. The message was clear and would echo through the ages. Humans protect their own, humans remember, and humans do not forgive those who hurt innocents. The stars themselves bore witness to that truth.